So welcome everyone to this PC1 meeting on the AFCO report on the reform of the treaties. And today we have the pleasure to have here Mr. Helmut Scholz, which is a co-rapporteur of the AFCO report and member of the Spinelli group. And we asked him to introduce this debate, and he kindly accepted to do it. And so I'll give him the floor, and then after his speech, I will introduce myself, some points on the report, and then we will open the debate. So welcome, Mr. Scholz, and please, I give the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Giulia, for having invited me to participate in this event. Yes, we are in the phase, or the hottest phase, before the consideration of the amendments to our report in the Constitutional Affairs Committee next Thursday in Strasbourg. And later on, 1 week later, we will vote on this report. So the question is where we are, what does it mean, and how the next steps for the issues. Why 5, or in the beginning it had been 6 co-rapporteurs from all political groups participating in this work? Because we considered it important that all political groups are contributing to find a way to leave the dead end in which the process of the Convention resolution of the European Parliament of last year, immediately after the conclusion of the Conference on the Future of Europe, already was and is. And we want then, and also with the current report, contribute really to convene a convention to be able to answer those recommendations of citizens, those expectations to the 3 political institutions at EU level, but of course not limited to the Commission, to the Council, and to the Parliament, but also involving how the national levels are coming in. So to unleash a debate, a discussion, what and where we want to see changes. And that are certain areas. But before going into the detail of the report as such, I would remind that yesterday the Spinelli group had an event in the European Parliament where was a handover of added with current remarks on a manifest for Europe in solidarity, social and ecological, picking up the idea of the Manifesto of Ventotene, which is more than 80 years old. And this new version, or I would say it is not a new version, it is adding new ideas for the current challenges, which Spinelli, Rossi and others couldn't have emphasized at that time. Climate change, technological developments, as a way of where we have to deepen the integration, also taking into account that originally it was a very limited number of member states who founded the European Union. Then the enlargement came and we became new members. And the last enlargement, in particular to the middle and central and eastern countries, played a big role in this. So all these issues and the gap in the social reality and the societies of the European Union also marked that until now, more or less, we are still only Staatenverbund in the understanding and interpretation of internal market. So the question is, has an internal market interest in the question of values? Has an internal market interest in the defense and foreign and security policy? How the internal market is contributing to tackle climate change and mitigating the loss of biodiversity? how we are shaping the relationship between this internal market and other regions and countries in the world. So the whole relationship in a more geopolitical, geo-economic issue must be today taken on board when we are defining where to go. So having said that, of course, the co-rapporteurs try to work together in picking up these challenges and putting it in a concrete framing. And that, I think, is the real added value of this report, which is now presented after a long time of hard work. And you can imagine then if there are rapporteurs, co-rapporteurs from the EPP to the left in the European Parliament, where we have quite different approaches to the political fields. Then it was not so easy to find a way. What is the red line? What could be a possibility also to question the Council to deal with this proposal from the European Parliament side. I would also add here that that leads to the question, how is the functioning of the European Union? So we went also not only in the general Lisbon Treaty, but we also went into the AUV structure of the Lisbon Treaty, where we have to adapt certain decision-making processes. So to unleash and to leave the dead end of European politics we are facing very often. So, for example, in the migration issue, in the common and security policy, foreign security policy, in the question of being in solidarity to tackle the social responsibility. So, how to incorporate the social dimensions, the social pillar, into the primary law of the European Union. So how to do this and who should be, from our point of view, the responsible structure. So we are also showing that a change maybe in the constitutional seating of the institutions, a reshaping of the relationship between the institutions is today necessary to make it working, to make it believable, to make it transparent, to reach out to citizens, because that was also more or less a consent of all the co-rapporteurs finally working on this report, that it must be inclusive democracy, it must be a participatory democracy in which people are able to participate in shaping policies at various levels, in their interest and in the interest of the whole structure of the European Union. So a little bit linking the utopia with the reality, the wishful thinking with showing the needs where we have to change. And that leads me to the final introductory remark. We didn't want to have a Christmas tree. We didn't want to contribute what everybody already wanted to change. But the pathway of this report are the recommendations from the citizens and from the other structures in the Conference on the Future of Europe, where there was a clear commitment by all participants. We have to introduce and change smaller, smaller questions to be in the daily work. And the Commission is saying, yeah, we have already a lot of these recommendations implemented in the current legislation. But the crucial ones, the really gaps. So, for example, when the representatives from the young generation clearly emphasize their experience from the Corona crisis, is that we need a health union. We need a health one policy in the European Union, giving them the chance to have access to medicines, to get treatment, and that should be in the responsibility of the European Union. And of course, this is interfering in the, until up to today, existing structures of the decision-making in the member states. This leads us finally to the issue: would it be realistic to expect that this report can really change the matter of facts, that the Council doesn't want to open the Lisbon Treaties, doesn't want to change? So, and that's therefore we are really playing with the argument, and we are using the argument according to Article 48, paragraph 2, where is clear obligation of the Council to implement a report which is delivered by the European Parliament. So, and the French presidency, the Czech presidency missed the chance after this, enthusiasm of a lot of people throughout Europe. Of course, generally seen, it was a small part of citizens who participated in this. But the impact of this policy making, of the economic and social reality of the situation, how we are tackling the multiple crises in Europe. Mentioned the COVID already. Migrant problems is back today as one of the biggest challenges to the European Union. Of course, the Russian aggression against Ukraine, also the way of how we are defining the capability of the European Union to speak and to act together in the heritage of Spinelli, how to overcome hate, how to overcome a situation when people are shooting each other at the battlefields, and that never come back again. So the question then, only for this area and field of the foreign and security policy, is linked, of course, also to the challenge of the enlargement. And you all know that the Council and the Commission have agreed to grant the candidate status for to Ukraine, to Moldova, and in a certain way also to Georgia, and here to meet the expectation coming out of this promise. So are we in unity with the world, the official policy of the European Union is telling the citizens? Or do we again the mistakes that we are postponing because the problems are as big as to be expected, that we are not going seriously into the concrete field of working on solutions, and including, of course, also citizens from these countries and from this region. And that is true not only for the three countries I mentioned, but that is also true for the so-called West Balkan. And in a certain way, it is, of course, also putting the question, what does it mean for Turkey? But that maybe is a huge issue, and only to say that that the pathway of the enlargement is challenging the European Union itself. Are we capable to enlarge? Are we prepared to that? What we are defining as, for example, the cohesion policies, in which the cohesion policy must be continued in the interest of the today's member states. And even there you are seeing today already, while we are discussing the midterm review of the multi-annual financial framework, that the money is going from the cohesion funds and structural funds and agriculture funds into the defense policy. What does it mean for the democratic awareness of citizens in Europe being excluded from this decision-making? So a wide range of problems, wide range of new aspects the European policy has to tackle with is just now on the proof. And we got more than 300 amendments alone from the committee. Some of them are backed by other committees who also contributed to our work. So we had consulted almost all other committees in the House on the report. And that, I think, is the interesting session on next Thursday. So maybe if you are interested, you can, of course, follow this session via the web stream of the Parliament. And yeah, and also the arguments we are exchanging between us as co-rapporteurs as well as of the other members. Thank you very much. And I'm really interested in hearing your positions, your expectations, your views, and your criticism to us. And that is interesting. Yeah, why all rapporteurs are German? I see the question in the chat. I would say by occasion, because they have been named by the groups and the Conference of the Presidents. So the Conference of Presidents, when it decided to have such an initiative resolution, these members occasionally had been a responsibility, partly also because Gabi Bischoff, as the only woman in this composition of rapporteurs, and Guy Verhofstadt, Daniel Freund, and me, we had been also members, also on behalf of the Conference of Presidents, chosen for being the members of the executive board or steering committee, we can describe it, of the conference as such since 2020.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scholz, and thank you for having draw a very precise picture of the situation in which the European Union is now, of the difficulties, of the very tragic moment in which we are, and so the challenges that the European Union must face. I just want to underline some points of this proposal for treaty reform from, let's say, more an institutional point of view. And I want to underline that this is not a reform that touches only some points of the functioning of the European Union, but it is a reform that aims at modifying the whole functioning of the European Union and at rendering it more democratic and more similar to a federation, let's say. I consider this proposal for reform very, very positive and advanced. And I think that there are 4 points which are very important from an institutional point of view. The first one is that this reform make it easier to take decisions in the European Union institutions. The second is that it renders the decision-making at EU level in general more democratic. The third is that, according to me, it paves the way for the creation of a real democratic government of the European Union, and eventually the fact that the amendments of the future treaty would be adopted through the ratification just of a majority of the member states. And these are, according to me, the points which are most important from an institutional point of view, which of course has very important consequences also on the content and on the policies that the European Union would be able to do in the future. Concerning the taking of decision, the main reform proposed is the abolishing of the unanimity in practice. So every decision is taken by qualified majority, and so it will not be possible anymore for a state to block a decision or to blackmail the other member states. And in particular, the report wants to overcome unanimity also in common foreign and security policy, and as regards the decision by the European Council to decide the creation of a common defense. These are fields in which now the European Union decides by unanimity, and with mechanisms which are intergovernmental. They remain still intergovernmental in this report, even if there's a participation of the European Parliament, which has to give its consent. but unanimity is not anymore there, and the decisions are taken by qualified majority. And this qualified majority applies also to other very important decisions, like the fiscal harmonization of direct and indirect taxes, the flexibility clause, the rule on the suspending of payments and commitments from the Union in case of violation of the rule of law by a member state. So this becomes the rule, the majority decision. And so it is not anymore possible for a state to block a decision on these very, very important issues. The second point is the strengthening of democracy, which is very important. First of all, because the European Parliament becomes co-legislator in almost all the fields of European Union law. And so it is not just a question of abolishing the unanimity in the Council and European Council, but also of the full participation of the institution which represents the citizens. And above all, the European Parliament will have power concerning own resources, and in particular the procedure to decide on the resources of the European Union will not be anymore decided by an unanimous decision by the Council and the ratification by all the member states, but just by the ordinary legislative procedure, so Parliament and Council by majority. And this is very important because the fiscality, the fiscal power is one of the bases of democracy. And so citizens can decide on fiscality because it concerns their future. It concerns the resources that the Union will have at their disposal to decide its own politics. So fiscality is not something which is merely technical. It is something that influences all the policies that the European Union can do. So from this point of view, the European Union becomes autonomous from a financial point of view from the member states. And the other element of democracy is the possibility to have a European referendum. And this possibility is previewed also in case of non-ratification of the amendments of the new treaty by the 4/5 of the member states. So it will be possible to convene an European referendum. Third, the creation of something similar to European government. This is also a very important point because the Commission, first of all, is named the executive, and this renders the Commission also as a name more similar to a government. And the president would be chosen by the European Parliament and then have to be approved by the European Council, but the commissioners would be just 15 and chosen by the president. So the Commission becomes something more similar to a government in the sense that if it is the president that can choose the members of the European Commission is not anymore a technical institution, but it has a political homogeneity. And so it becomes something more similar to a government with a very strong relationship with the European Parliament, of course. So it becomes like a government of the European Union or something in the direction of a government of the European Union. And lastly, the procedure to amend the new treaty, because here is previewed that ratification is not a ratification by all the member states, but also by a 4/5 of the member states. This is, of course, a procedure that would be applied to the new treaty, so not for the approval of this reform, but it opens the way to introduce majority also in this case, in the sense that it is now discussed, this principle of majority, also for approving this reform. In my view, this report has a very important role in the sense that, first of all, as Mr. Scholz said, it is a consequence of the Conference on the Future of Europe. So it is backed by the will of the citizens. And second, it has newly opened the perspective of changing radically the treaties, and also the perspective that the procedure provided for by Article 48 will not be necessarily followed, but there's the perspective that in the convention could be like a break. So like a decision, a strong decision to create a political union. And this decision not necessarily will involve all the member states. It is also possible that we have states that want to unite in a political union and states that want to remain just in the market. So in my opinion, this proposal for reform opens a very important perspective and opens a debate to change really the European Union and to render the European Union capable of facing the challenges that it has to face in these days. So it is not just the content of the report, but also the perspective it opens concerning the procedure to its approval and to the creation of a new structure for the European Union. So these were my most important points. And then for me, I finished what I wanted to say, and I would like to open the debate to everybody who wants to contribute.
Shall I begin with answering to the question which has been raised in the chat? Only for the orientation, I have to leave at 7 o'clock to the airport. So that is a time frame we have from my point of view. And I can only but encourage you to continue if you're interested to discuss the various aspects of this report and maybe the problems around this report, because it's not only the report. We are speaking about the reality in Europe. And it starts with the answer to why so little publicity, because a lot of actors and stakeholders in Europe are not interested in opening the treaties, even to start a debate about the plus and the minus of the treaties in relation to the question how it is functioning today from the perspective of the member states. So first of all, probably we have to answer, and partly I mentioned it, what we want to be in Europe. And you know it probably better than me that there are a huge range of answers to this question alone in Italy, going to France, to Germany. We are seeing in which way the social, the public life is developing, because a lot of citizens are frustrated about the not moving of the politicians towards their expectations and changing their reality, both at the member state level and partly, of course, also of the European Union. And if in Germany, for example, if there is a report about European Union policies, then it is always the summit of the heads of governments and states, sometimes the Commission, but almost not reporting about the exchange of views, the work in the European Parliament, in the Committee of Regions, the social partners in the Economic and Social Committee of the European Union. So it is a very differentiated awareness how the multi-level governance of the EU is already functioning, and where we have to change certain issues in the directions we are trying to describe, and where we are thinking that the conference has put them on the table. And they had put on the table not everything, but from the participants, the most burning issue regarding the treaty change. So once more, we are not able to deal with all the aspects, even if they are all interlinked. Logically, I agree with you, Giulia, that the way of how we are organizing a democratic decision-making is a crucial one. Each mayor at the municipality is, of course, guided by the frame, for example, we are giving in the public procurement area for him. So he is binding, responsible in a binding way, responsible for implementing these frameworks at the municipal level. Nobody knows that that is European policies, in the plus and in the minus, and that we can give in all other areas as well. So that I would say is one point. So this is then, of course, also the question you mentioned with the ordinary legislative process in the European Union. And therefore, we are trying to open there where it seems to be a good entrance point for going further, but that is an entrance point. Thirdly, our task was not to describe the whole complexity of a treaty, but we are trying to make a proposal from the parliament to convene a convention who is then responsible to work on these issues. So we are not in the situation that we could have been able to produce a new treaty. And you know all the referendum in France about the last constitutional treaty and in the Netherlands, or the 3 votes in Ireland, which also increased the frustration about citizens that their first rejection was not recognized. So the big and the smaller countries. So this relationship is, of course, also playing a role in the aspect. And therefore, frankly speaking, we have not yet discussed the plan B. So we are hoping that the majority, and working for that the majority, a clear majority of the parliament is with us, is going the direction. And therefore, a lot of compromises are, of course, not mirroring all the political positions, points of the various political groups in the House. So we try to be limited to develop a strategy for going in this direction. And yes, the overcoming of the unanimity is one of the crucial points, problems we have to solve if we want to change something. That is starting already. And in the convention, or for the convention, there's a single majority necessary. So it means we need 15 countries who would support the call of the European Parliament to convene a convention. And therefore, we have a hot political battle among the member states and among other political groups, of course. So it is not by occasion that the co-rapporteur from the European Conservatives and Reformists left the rapporteurship, because he said, this is not the Europe we as Polish Party from Peace want to develop. We have Article 7 procedures in this, and to better it in our report. So it is, of course, also the question about rule of law, democratic constitutional situation of the member state, etc. All these aspects are behind this small question. And what I also wanted to say, of course, in my own group, I will face a lot of hot discussions why I agree to a defense union. And you know, the left is not seeing the militarization of the European Union as a tool which is changing the ability to act in the international and global fora. The Peace Nobel Prize winner should stick to the soft power in this direction. That is our conviction. Nevertheless, I try to work in the direction that we are describing in which way a defense union, in particular in the situation where we are today, with the war in Ukraine, with the conflicts in other regions in the neighboring countries, what is going on the border between Kosovo and Serbia. So we have a lot of issues where we have to look into the detail, and So therefore, I agree to go there, because I think the European integration is in a certain way also a left idea, coming from Spinelli and others. So because we want to have a union which is really establishing solidarity, equality, justice, coexistence, and yeah, I don't know exactly the English word, sorry for that, to take care about the problems and the daily life of citizens. Not only talking about the huge policies, but policy is always concrete and precise. And the impact of political decisions is each and every citizen's targeting alone. So he and she must be able to judge where I come in. And I worked all the time in this legislative term also in the direction of participatory democracy. I made an own report which has been adopted, how we are developing new tools. So the citizens' initiative as one, very much under discussion is a participatory budget, because budget was mentioned. Yes, of course, we have to increase the rights and the ability of the European Parliament to be a full equipped with rights parliament like it is at the member state level. We have to come in. We should have the right on legislative initiative. We should be able to make laws in the interest, maybe not all, and the important in some smaller fields of technical issues, adoption, etc. But in the main problems, we need it. And we want to bring these level back to the citizens. That's why, therefore, this relationship between the decision-making process at the EU level and the right of citizens to participate in that. And that is linked then to referendum. Yes, I know we have a lot of countries where a referendum is not obligatory. We have some countries where it is obligatory. Our proposal is that we want to introduce an EU-wide referendum on this issue. So not to repeat the mistakes of 2005. And this means we have challenged all of us, the societies and the responsible governance structures, to respond how we are doing it. And yes, I know that there are politicians, there are political forces who are totally rejecting this idea. And we will have, with the European elections next year, the test of the truth, as I would say. So do we have the chance to convey persuading answers to the questions of the people? And does this report contribute to deal with this answers finding process, or it is hindering? And so I can only but encourage all of us to work in the direction of getting more public attention to these complicated issues. And of course, as I see also the question in a question of including the new countries who wants to be member of the EU. So if this should be a project, as it said, we need first the deepening, and then it is one answer. We also should not say only enlarging without deepening, because that would not function. Because that would reduce the whole enlargement to a geopolitical battle between the European Union and other countries. And it would not solve the internal needs to reshape the functioning of the European Union in the interest of the citizens. So why we have no energy union, why we are keeping the energy mix at 27 member states level, why we are not really developing a European economic policies. We are giving frames, etc., because we are interpreting still ourselves as being German, French, Italian, Romanian, Basque, etc. So this discussion must be organized. And I'm not so optimistic about the outcome of this longer process, but opening the process, starting the work, in inviting others to participate in this issue is the only precondition that European Union will be able to answer the future challenges in the interest of our children and grandchildren and the future generations, in the interest of environment, in the interest of peace, and in the interest of social equality at our continent, inside the European Union. So that, I think, is a main problem here. I could talk a lot other things. I saw just now another question. Yeah, the type of federalism. Maybe that is leading into the wrong direction, because we are leading this discussion of federalism for decades and have never been successful. So why not starting with the problems we have to solve, and then to determine what are the tools, what are the ways, what are the mechanisms, what are the spaces for answering these questions of today. And then, if we are organizing really such better, how to say it, working and cooperation within the European Union with others, probably we can also come to a point where we are discussing what we want to, from the state law, from the institutional, from the constitutional aspect, to be as European Union. You know, the Ulrike Guiraud, who has the idea of the Republic of Europe, because they want to give any citizens the right to vote according to a union citizenship, and by the citizenship to reach the issues. I think it's an interesting idea, but it will not solve the problem which we are discussing now, because it will not neglect the economic realities of the internal market. So the gap between the rich and the poor, between north and south, between east and west, will be continued. So we have to determine what are these tools, etc. And looking to the questions, the last one, we have a report on the own resources from the Budget Committee and from the Constitutional Affairs Committee. The opinion of the Constitutional Affairs Committee was worked out by me as a contribution to the discussion in the Budget Committee. As one aspect, we need own resources. Imagine if we would today ask the countries only for, and that was today another discussions I had on the structural policies and the funds. If we would not be able to continue to use these funds really to help to develop certain regions to overcome the biggest inequalities, even if that would be immediately go into the direction when Moldova or Georgia or even the Ukraine, Kosovo will become members of the European Union, then a lot of these cohesion funds are going into these regions. Even the less developed regions of today would not get any more support. What does it mean for the democratic awareness and discussion in these regions? And we have to avoid that there is a clash between the different regions. So we have to reform it in a certain way. So we need also a new financial structured system of the European Union, other ways, because Poland, Hungary, and I could tell you a lot of other countries would reject the idea to increase the contribution to the budget. Exceptionally maybe, but not democratically controlled, not put under the surveillance of the European Parliament. It would remain a deal between governments to solve the one or the other problem in their interest. And that is a continuation of an undemocratic construction of the European Union in a certain way, because we are not going to the core of the problems in the issues. And therefore, I'm really grateful. I'm really delighted that the European Parliament has started to work in this direction. I mean, there is a lot of resistance also. And there is, of course, the question, if you are coming from one of the countries I mentioned, that you would be targeted as a traitor of the national interest. But we are not elected for interpreting and representing a national interest. We are elected to participate from the citizens' point of view in the policy making of the European Union. And we should not forget these tasks the European parliamentarians have. So that would be maybe would be some of my answers. The symbols we have not taken on board because that would immediately lead to less support for this report, and we have to make sure that the report gets a big majority for being able also to ask to go to the council and say the overwhelming majority or a big majority of the parliament is demanding the call for a convention. So please. And if you not go, and then maybe that is also ability for plan B, then we have the ECG. And we have the article. But that is, of course, not the solution. I don't want to have a battle between the institutions. I want to persuade that we have a common task to better European policies.
Thank you very much. So, are there other interventions? Because this meeting was also convened to discuss a proposal for a resolution for our federal committee, which is called For a More Democratic Europe Now, and some proposals for amendment to these resolutions. So today we won't vote on this, but just discuss. And I think that Mr. Scholz underlined very well the fact that this report will open a perspective of really changing the European Union. And so we as Federalists, according to me, we should support this report because it is a very important occasion to open the debates and also to reform the European Union, perhaps in a way which is not previewed by the treaties, but refound the European Union on more democratic basis and make that it becomes similar to a federation. So this process, according to me, it is very important for this reason. So because it is able to open like a constituent process, so a refunding of the European Union. And according to me, we Federalists should support this process and open a battle to the convention, to the convening of the convention for the opening of this discussion and for the having a real perspective of reforming the European Union. But now who wants to take the floor? I see Roberto Castaldi.
Thank you, Giulia. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Scholz for coming and for the work they've done, because the report is really detailed, and most of the issues that have been raised also in the chat regarding own resources and so on are fully addressed by the report. So I wanted to ask you two questions. The first one is I've seen also the big number of amendments that have been proposed, and I would split them in three groups. One by the nationalists that want to destroy the report altogether. The second by those who want to water it down. And the third by those who want to strengthen it in a few points regarding rights or powers and competencies and for the amendment procedure. So what are his expectations regarding the amendments? And the second question is about ratification. I believe that in the project there is this idea that ratification will happen by 4/5, and only if this is not reached, there would be a European referendum. I'm worried that we can have a 4/5 of ratification, but if the one that we don't have is France, nobody will be willing to go ahead, and we won't have a legal basis to have a European referendum because 4/5 have been reached. And is very likely that we will have a referendum in France, and if it is a national referendum, we can lose by adding the votes of Le Pen, Zemmour, and Mélenchon. So I believe it's very important, the amendment proposed by Devesa, De Benifei, and Bresso regarding the idea that ratification should happen through a European referendum with double majority, a European majority and a national majority, and majority of member states, which is the way that the federal referendum are done in Switzerland, for example, and with the proposal of a 2 rounds. So if there is a European majority and a majority of member states, it is ratified, so it enters into force. But for those states where there was a majority against, they would vote against. They would vote again within 6 months about ratifying or leaving the union. And in that case, I think that in France we can win in the second round as well, because the price of not ratifying it is so high. So I would like to know his view about this issue, which I think would be the most important one to bring whatever reform will come out from the convention to fruition and to ratification. Thanks.
Good questions. And I have no view in this glass to see what will be the result of the voting. But if you see the groups you mentioned, and I would agree with you that are the 3 directions, then these are certain delegations or certain members, and the majority of the groups has still not yet decided how to vote finally. So the real battlefield, I guess, will be after the committee voting, before we are going to the plenary vote, because then we have different majorities maybe, and different views on the whole issue. So it would be very positive and necessary to use the time to November also to increase the not the pressure, but the discussion around this report and the meaning of this report and the current situation, this current political and economic situation of the European Union. And not to give in that others who want to destroy, as you said, the European Union, the structure, to give them a chance to do so. There had been some reflections by some members before who said we should not touch this work. Because if you open the box of Pandora, you will not be able to keep it. But I would say that is a wrong understanding of democracy. If the problems and points are on the table, we have to deal with them. And we have to determine in which way we want to solve the one or the other issue. We only should look into the past when we are not discussing problems and aspects and to find together solution. It will always lead to a more splitted co-relationship between member states or between the EU and third countries, etc. So it must be, as it was said, an operation in the open heart. And we have to understand that that we can't hide somewhere behind the curtains. This policy of the old Chinese imperator Sisi is once and always forever gone. And if you really want to have democratic solutions, I mean. So that, I think, is the only way we have to move. So I hope that in the committee we will have a majority to adopt it. We will have next Monday one more technical meeting with of the co-rapporteurs where we are dealing finally with finding compromises maybe in certain areas with amendments where we are seeing this could be either better the report, or we are seeing maybe less is better than adding something. So this is the work we still have to to do. So the weekend and Monday, we have to continue the hard work on this report and looking through where are chances of abilities to go in this direction. I hope I have answered in a certain way your question.
Other interventions?
I mean, the last question in the chat, very interesting. That's why we are saying climate change is the challenge. It is the challenge, and we have to prepare. We have to find solutions, to be equipped to find new ways to solve all the challenges. So how we are organizing an energy policy, giving also each citizens access to affordable energy, how we are producing it under the question that we want to have the CO2-free continent, hopefully to 2040, because we know the time is running and the clock is ticking. So I mean, this is obvious, and that's why I guess we have to find ways to go into this direction, and that will, of course, also lead to a discussion within and among and between political groups to go with this step or another step together in opening the way